You asked, yeah, you asked a question earlier about how AI is going to change the research space. I'm not sure I answered that. Do you want me to take 2 minutes and answer that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So, like I said, I think it's smart but not wise, and I don't think it gets at the critical information about how are people actually implementing a technology in a real environment. It can compare and contrast in theory what these features and functionalities are like, and that's important. Although I would caution against one thing. When I have done this, that's why I do the deep research component. When I've done this before, sometimes the deep research, you want to know what the source of this information is? Vendor sites. And so, if you're a practitioner and you're seeing, a chart that shows you strengths and weaknesses, and you click on that and find out what the source is, and it's all the vendors in the industry telling you what they're good at, that's not necessarily useful. So I always encourage people, do the deep research part. Don't just trust it to the cursory review that you get on ChatGPT. That said, sometimes the deep research stuff is cited from third parties and legitimate, unbiased sources. It doesn't have my information in there, funny enough, even though my stuff is available, which I think is part of the game. It's almost like SEO. There's like AEO or GEO where you have to compete to get people. So it's a mystery. Why would they source certain things, not others? I played around with it a bit, and I think it has to learn reputation a bit more. So I do think there's value in using it. It can't tell you how it's going to be implemented, and it can't tell you what people's impressions are. That's not aggregated anywhere. That's why I do those 80 to 100 phone calls, because the only way you're ever going to hear how a particular technology actually works in an actual environment is to talk to actual users in that actual environment. That all said, I do think that the research space is in for a wholesale change, because any industry where there's a billable hour or a pyramid component where you've got people at the top who have the knowledge and the people at the bottom who do the work is going to be radically transformed, because it's the bottom part here. Um, I think there are a lot of these companies that have published research that, frankly, isn't that useful. They are using people on a partial billable hour component that aren't really that good. And I think this kind of technology makes the strong, more productive people stronger and more productive. And it exposes the fallacy that just because you work for a company and you have a title doesn't necessarily mean you're adding a lot of value. So the law firms are going to grapple with this.
Yep.
Management consulting firms are grappling this, and so are the research firms, because there are a lot of junior people at research firms who are there to learn, and that's great. But are you, as a client, do you really want to pay for the other company's people to learn, or are you paying for value? And I
Yep.
think that's where this is getting exposed.